Good evening and welcome to CYC News for the 23rd of September 2018 and the 13th of Tut 17:35 am. I'm Anastasia Attia. In today's headlines, Saudi-led coalition investigates Yemen airstrike following report. Turkey and Russia to establish buffer zone in rebel-held Syrian province. Saudi-led coalition launches operation to recapture Yemeni port city. Trump administration cancels Palestinian envoy's US residency permit. Was Brexit sold by liars, and is Britain's exit plan unworkable? Germany approves arms sales to Saudi Arabia. Coptic Church nominated for the 2018 Nobel Peace Prize. Ultra-processed foods linked to increased risk of cancer. Cristiano Ronaldo cries after Champions League red card for Juventus. First to Yemen, where the Saudi-led coalition fighting a war against Houthi rebels has said it will investigate an airstrike that killed 2 children last week, after American news station CNN provided evidence of the incident. In a statement, coalition spokesman Turki Al-Malki said it will refer the bombing in the northern province of Sauda on September the 13th to the Joint Incident Assessment Team. This is due to the probability of collateral damage and civilian casualties during the targeting of a gathering of Houthi militias. On Tuesday, CNN aired a report showing that an airstrike which hit a displaced Yemeni family's home killed 2 young siblings, a 3-month-old baby girl and 3-year-old boy last week. The footage captures the sound of the plane, the smoke rising from the strike, and the sight of the family's neighbours digging the bodies of the 2 children out from under the rubble. The family had fled from the village of Wadi Laya in the Al-Dahd district on the Saudi Arabian border into the Haydan district in Sauda Governorate, where the airstrike happened. CNN's report also revealed that fragments of US-manufactured weapons had been found at the sites of a string of other attacks since the start of the war, though it was unclear who manufactured the bombs used in the September 13 strike. Last month, a separate CNN investigation found remnants of the US-made bomb at the scene of an August airstrike in Sauda that left dozens of schoolboys dead. Russia and Turkey have agreed to create a demilitarized zone in Syria's Idlib province, potentially averting a large-scale military operation and impending humanitarian disaster in the country's last rebel stronghold. Speaking alongside Russian President Vladimir Putin at the talks in Sochi on Monday, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan said the creation of a 15 to 20-kilometre demilitarized zone would prevent a humanitarian crisis in the northern west province. The leader said all heavy military equipment, tanks, ground-to-air missiles and mortars of all the opposition groups will be removed by October 10. The zone, which will be patrolled by Turkish and Russian military units, will become operational from October 15. Erdogan described the agreement as a solution to the issues in the region, saying Russia and Turkey will both have coordinated patrol activities on both sides of the border at the demilitarized zone. With this agreement, I believe that we will prevent a big humanitarian crisis in Idlib. Returning to Yemen now, where the Saudi-led coalition fighting Houthi rebels has launched a major offensive to recapture the strategic port city of Hodeidah. According to Brigadier Ali al-Tunaji, commander of the Arab Coalition Task Force in Yemen's Red Sea coast, the military operation is targeting Houthi-controlled areas of the coastal province in order to cut the supply line connecting Hodeidah to the capital Sana'a. The United Nations has said an assault on the port city could, in a worst-case scenario, kill up to 250,000 people. Around 70% of the humanitarian aid passes through the Red Sea port. The military offensive in the province started in June, but fighting stalled, especially in Hodeidah, as the UN tried to bring warring parties to the negotiating table. The latest attempt was in Geneva earlier this month, but the Houthis didn't travel, as all sides blamed each other for obstructing the peace talks. The Arab coalition supports several militias in Yemen, as well as the national military of the internationally recognized government in the war against the Iranian-backed Houthis. To the United States now, where according to Palestinian officials, the Trump administration has revoked the residency permits and closed the bank accounts of the Palestine Liberation Organization's representative to the US, Hussein Zomlot, as well as those of his family. The move comes a week after the White House announced the closure of the PLO office in Washington. Employees of the mission were ordered to cease all operations and give until October 13 to vacate the premises. Zomlot has not been in the US since Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas recalled him in the protest against the decision to relocate the US Embassy in Israel from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. PLO Executive Committee member Hanan Ashrawi condemned the decision by Trump, saying it went against all diplomatic protocol and constituted an inhumane escalation. She added, as if the announcement that the US would close our office in Washington, D.C. was not enough. This vindictive action by the Trump administration is spiteful. The US has taken its attempts to pressure and blackmail the Palestinians to a new level. Now, if Theresa May hoped that a two-day summit with European leaders in Austria would bring harmony to the fraught Brexit process, she will have left sorely disappointed. A lavish dinner at the Felsenretschule Theatre in Salzburg last Wednesday evening failed to smooth the way. By Thursday, there wasn't much left by bitterness and acrimony. Donald Tusk, president of the European Council, said key aspects of Brexit proposals presented by May will not work in their current form. Angela Merkel, the German chancellor, said there could be no compromise on the integrity of the single market, the bloc's economic free trade zone. Emmanuel Macron, the French president, was harshest of all, saying the entire Brexit project was sold to the British people by liars who immediately fled the stage, unwilling to see their project through. May could be forgiven for looking like thunder at her post-summit press conference, but she showed no sign of backing down from the proposals hashed out with her cabinet in July, so controversial that they provoked the resignation of her Foreign Secretary, Boris Johnson, and Brexit Secretary David Davis. If the language coming out of the EU leaders was anything to go by, the prospect of the UK crashing out without a deal seems greater than ever. The German government has approved the delivery of controversial weapons systems to Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates and Jordan, despite a January ban on arms sales to countries embroiled in the bloody conflict in Yemen. Earlier this week, Germany's Economy Minister Peter Altmaier wrote a letter to Parliament members outlining the approval of several defence contracts, including 4 artillery positioning systems to Saudi Arabia. The letter also revealed that 48 warheads and 91 missiles for UAE warships had been approved, along with 385 anti-tank missiles for Jordan. Qatar, no longer active in the Saudi-led coalition fighting in Yemen, was also cleared to receive an armoured howitzer, 170 air-to-air missiles and 7 air defence missile systems. The letter did not specify when the arms deals were made. The weapon sales have come under criticism from German opposition parties. Earlier this year, Germany's governing coalition had halted weapon sales to countries involved in the Yemen conflict. The coalition agreement was approved in January by 3 parties in government: Angela Merkel's Christian Democratic Union, its sister parties the Christian Social Union, and the centre-left Social Democrats. It states that arms sales to countries involved in the war in Yemen would end. The January agreement read, with immediate effect, the government will no longer approve exports of weapons to countries as long as they are involved in the war in Yemen. As of Thursday, Germany's economy ministry declined to comment. And in some exciting news, the Coptic Orthodox community in Egypt has been nominated for this year's Nobel Peace Prize. The Copts of Egypt join a list of 331 candidates, the second highest number ever considered for the prize. It is the first time a religious group as a whole has received a nomination. This is in the recognition of the community's non-violent, peaceful and forgiving response to continual persecution. In 2012, Maggie Gulbran, also known as Mama Maggie, the founder of Stephen's Children, a non-profit charity in Cairo, was also nominated for the prestigious award. That was in acknowledgement of her ministry work providing assistance to both Christian and Muslim children throughout Cairo and impoverished rural communities in Upper Egypt. The winner of the 2000 Nobel Peace Prize will be announced in Norway on October 5. Tune in to a special edition of the Sydney Bulletin on October 1, where we discuss this year's historic nomination. In some health news, ultra-processed foods are not known for their health qualities. We know this, yet it's hard to resist the donuts your kind colleague brought into the office. Now, research published on Wednesday in the BMJ may give you at least a longer pause before you pick the pink one with sprinkles. Researchers discovered that people who eat more ultra-processed foods have a higher risk of cancer. Such foods are the ones with unrecognizable and unpronounceable words on the list of ingredients. Anything from the candy that turns your tongue blue to healthier sounding canned soups packed with artificial flavors. Most food is processed to some degree, but ultra-processed foods are typically much more calorie, sodium, and sugar packed. Research has long showed that people who live on ultra-processed food tend to be more obese and overweight. Studies have also found they're more likely to have heart and circulation problems or diabetes. The study says ultra-processed fats and sauces, sugary products, and drinks were associated with an increased risk of overall cancer. Ultra-processed sugary products were associated with an increased risk of breast cancer. Study co-author Methyl Tuvia said it was quite surprising the strength of the results. They were really strongly associated, and we did many sensitive analysis and adjusted the findings for many cofactors, and still, the results here were quite concerning. Ultra-processed foods occupy a growing part of the world's diet. A 2016 study found that 60% of the calories in the average American diet came from this kind of food. A 2017 study found that they make up 50% of the Canadian diet, and they make up more than 50% of the UK diet. And in sport, Cristiano Ronaldo wept tears of frustration after his Champions League debut for Juventus ended in a sending off against Valencia. The Portuguese star made a promising start to Wednesday's game, setting up early opportunities for Mario Makunjic and Sami Khedira, before tangling in the penalty area with Valencia defender Jason Murillo. Ronaldo appeared to aim a kick and pull the hair off of the Colombian, with the referee having no hesitation in issuing the red card after consulting his assistant. Ronaldo, so keen to make an early impression for Juve in the competition, sunk to the ground in disbelief with his head in his hands before trudging off with tears in his eyes. It was his first red card in 154 Champions League appearances. Juventus still managed to win the game despite going down to 10 men with penalties either side of halftime, ensuring a 2-0 victory. And that's all for CYC News. A reminder that you can watch this news bulletin again throughout the week on YouTube. I'm Anastasia Attia from the CYC studios in Sydney, Australia. Have a good night.